mind, clear your hands, clear your mouth. You. We had a VBS. We had about 60 kids, averaging every day. That was awesome, and it was brutal. It was, my goodness, like gym was packed, and then they were outside and inside and running and screaming everywhere. And it's like it's so nice. Around 4 approximately, everyone is gone and we have everything back in place, cleared up, and everyone leaves. And I'm just outside in the empty parking lot, and like, oh, this feels so good. Like, no more noise. Jeez. But one cool thing, so every morning I would have to be at the church early to start up the swamp coolers, so the gym cools down before people start getting in there. And like, I'm driving, and my mind is kind of already there. And then at certain moments, like, I would just kind of shake myself back into here, you know. And I would be driving that Mercedes, so I take the top down and just kind of enjoy the breeze, the morning breeze, you know. And like driving down Sheridan and looking at Pikes Peak, you know. And but here's the thing, like, seriously, like those moments when I would shake myself off of whatever was happening yesterday and what's supposed to happen today, when I'm in here, it just felt amazingly awesome, you know. And I realized, like, it takes me about 20 minutes to get from home to church, and I could have 20 minutes of that awesomeness if I would just be focused. If I would just be focused to use those 20 minutes for what they are intended, for the commute. But the moment my mind wanders off into, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and so on, literally like couple of blocks, couple of lights of driving, I don't even remember them, because, and then I realized, like, damn it, I just wasted 2 blocks of driving on something that I'm going to engage with anyways in about half an hour. So I'm doing a double job, you know. I don't need that. And I was already planning to do this topic for a long time, for a while, talking about this prayer of presence. And this week, it's really like, okay, I got to wrap it up and I got to share it, because it really hit me a lot this week, how important it is for your spiritual growth to understand this concept. Not just to understand it, but to practice it on a regular basis, because it really, there is a strong component of closeness to God that is involved with this. And a lot of times you will find it in the Bible, actually, really, and some of the verses we're going to read, like prophets deliberately practice this in order to hear God more clearly. So let's start with this. Let's start with 1 Kings chapter 19. It's a peculiar way in which, like, the elaboration of like why is presented here in a very practical manner. So verse will be on the screen for all of you, but since all of you already have your Bibles, that's awesome, it's fine. Oh, sorry. First Kings chapter 19. Got it? Okay, so 11 and 12. Now, a little bit of a backdrop for this. So what's happening over here? We have Elijah, prophet Elijah, pretty mighty prophet, pretty kind of, it was like fireworks around him all the time. He was like that style of a prophet. And he had a moment of hitting his personal rock bottom. So he just freaks. Morning. He kind of freaks out and he runs away. And he's like, I'm all by myself. You know, in all of this, there is no point of doing this anymore. I'm going to just hide. I'm going to just go. And God tells him, like, what are you talking about? I have 7,000 more, like, over there for me. You think you're the only one? Don't be ridiculous. But Elijah is just depressed. He's broken down. He's like, his head is ringing from everything that is happening on the political scene in Israel, on the social scene in Israel. He feels that he is rejected by everybody. And then God is like, okay. God comes to a decision to talk to him. So look at these verses. So verses 11 and 12. If you have your Bible, 1 Kings chapter 19, 11 and 12. Now, God said to him, go out and stand on the mount before the Lord. So he gets out of his cave and he is just on the mountain edge, and the Lord passed by. And a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. Imagine that wind. Imagine that hurricane. That's not even a hurricane strength. This was ripping out rocks. How powerful the wind was. And then he says, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. Now, have you ever tried? We talked about this before. We're going to kind of go through some of these things before. You know, when you go to a concert, have you ever tried talking to someone in the middle of the song? How does that work out? You have to yell in someone's ear for them just to get a hint of what you're trying to say. And every single conversation is filled with like a dozen of what? Yeah. Yeah. Nodding, like just nod. Yeah. Nod and wave, boys. Nod and wave. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So, the concept over here presented, how do you guys understand the purpose of this experience that Elijah had? Well, so there is an idea over here where God is about to show himself to Elijah. But the accent over here, the emphasis is not on where God is, but where God is not. Do you see that? Why? How do you understand this idea of God not being here?
It's kind of weird. Well, not weird, sorry. He told him to go outside and then all this stuff happens.
Say again, sorry.
That God told him to go outside and then all this stuff happens.
Uh-huh.
So it was for a reason, like you said, like obviously there's a point to it, but I don't know what it's referring to.
All right, so look at the world we live in. Who gets the most attention? You guys watch the debate? Why? Because what?
It influences our country where we're going.
Okay. How much time approximately did you guys spend on a debate on Thursday and Friday?
Well, I was driving down. I was driving down from Brentford.
Everybody was talking about it on Friday. Everybody, from far right to far left, wherever you, even like the outlets that don't generally speak much about politics, were focused on it. Complete attention of the whole nation was on two geriatrics discussing their golf abilities, playing golf abilities, you know. But here's the thing, they were so loud. They were so loud that what you said I don't necessarily agree with, but I can see the logic behind it. It greatly influences the future of our country. No presidency since John F. Kennedy really greatly influenced the future of the country. Ever since him, we had the same old, same old. Let's not bring like the slide. Like but pretty much the idea is this: if you want something for people to see, you have to make it bigger and louder and greater and so on. That doesn't necessarily mean it has substance. It just means it's kind of right there in your face. And we are used to this. This is like if you talk to magicians, for example, they're going to tell you the key to doing magic tricks is not that much in your ability to handle things, how much in ability to distract people's attention to something else. Like you do something over here, but actually what's happening is over here. You know, that's kind of the thing. That's how it works in the world of mass media today as well. When they want to distract us from something, they're going to, you know, do something huge over here so we don't see what's happening over there. Now, why am I talking about this? Elijah over here is being introduced to the same thing for a reason. Before this event, you know what happened before he ran away? He was on the Mount Carmel, and there were 400 prophets of Baal, and he made a deal with them. Okay, here's the deal. You make your altar, I'm going to make my altar, and let's pray to our gods. And whichever God answers, that is going to be the real God. So the Baal prophets, they pray, dance, chant, cut themselves, do whatever it takes, and nothing happens. You guys know the story, right? Okay, anyways, so and then Elijah starts teasing them. Come on, pray louder. Maybe he fell asleep. You know, maybe he's busy, you know, doing something. And then, like the noon has passed by, and Elijah is like, "Listen, guys, whatever you're doing, it's not working. Let me do my part now." So he builds an altar out of rocks. He puts a calf. I think it's a calf. The altar. And he's like, okay, now let me pray. So he's like, Lord, this is your moment. You show them your power. And the fire comes down from heavens. It burns the sacrifice. It burns the altar. It evaporates all of the water out of that trench. And people around are like, oh, whoa. This is it. This is the real God. This is amazing. So they vow to serve the real God. They go down to the river. They slaughter 400 prophets of Baal. And the next day, the queen, Jezebel, she's like, you know what? Whatever you did to my prophets, that's what I'm going to do to you. And Elijah looks around, and he's like, geez, there is no one on my side. I'm all by myself. Elijah's thought was, all of this fire, all of this craziness that happened, that's not enough to save me. And he runs away. So he had this big and flashy experience of presentation of God's power just to drive him to fear, depression, and escape. And then God tells him, okay, Elijah, we got to clear some things out. We got to clear some things out. All of the flashy things that you hear, see, are presented with, none of them, they might be for me, they might not, but none of them contain God. And the reason that is important, because here's the thing. Why do people switch churches? Why do people go to one church, then after that they go to another?
For many reasons. Sometimes they don't like, I don't know, like the service, like how it's presented. Maybe it's too outdated for them, or maybe it doesn't agree with their political views, or maybe they got bored of it and they needed to change.
Which one of these reasons is spiritual? And yet people still make their spiritual choices based on their social, political, or whatever engagement is, right? If a church is a place where God is being served, then any church, wherever you walk in, should be sufficient for your spiritual experience, right? But people, we are taught that spiritual experience in itself is not enough. It needs to be filled up with flashy. Oh, they better have nice music, or I'm not going there. Oh, the pastor better not have an accent, so I can understand him. You know, or whatever it is, you know. But the idea is people look almost like they're looking at the catalog of churches. Oh, okay, this is a smaller church. They have an older pastor, and they still use organ. Okay, I'm going to take my grandma over there. You know, but not for me. I'm more for like some drums and some. Yeah, exactly, yeah, huh? If he's preaching in jeans, that's my place, you know, and so on. Because all of these things, and then I know that as a pastor, you know, I know that. And then even though as much as I disagree with this mentality, I have to cater to it, you know. Elijah, on the other hand, he's in an existential crisis, and God tells him, okay, you have to understand that God is not in the drums, that God is not in the lights, that God is not in the organ, that God is not in whatever you think spiritual experience is. God is not in any of the outside elements. The wind that is tearing up mountains, the earthquake, the fire, no. God is in the sound of a low whisper. Now, if you're in a rock concert, how are you going to hear somebody whispering to you? What do you have to, you're in a rock concert with somebody and they're trying to tell you something and they're whispering. What do you have to do to hear them?
You have to step out, no, with the concert.
If it's going to be, one thing is speak louder. But God prefers not to speak louder. So the only option that you have is to step out. To step out of whatever you consider to be an outlet of spiritual experience. Or not just spiritual, more than that, of your social experience, of your political experience, or whatever it is. You know, you need to step out. Now, how can you step out of your life? Our life is contained of all of these things that we're engaged in. How can we step out?
Taking time away from all those distractions.
Do you have time to take time away?
Well, you can make time. I mean, I feel like you can. That's a choice that you make to
Uh-huh.
Because I'm like, obvious. I say this from my personal experience. When I want to watch a show on Netflix, oh, I make time. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'll find the time to watch that one show. I'm really excited. Oh, it came out. It's 1 hour. You know, oh, I find the time. Even if it's like right before bed, or if it's like in sections throughout the day, but I'll find it. You know, so it's like I feel like if it is a priority, if it's something that we want, if it's something that we recognize as important, we will find the time. We'll make it.
That is absolutely true. All of us have the same amount of time, and you choose how to prioritize it. And the moment you don't prioritize your time to connect to God, you simply disconnect. It's natural. It's just natural progress of things. What does it mean to step out? Now, one thing is, I agree, you can find the time. Even if it's 10 minutes, every one of us can find the time. But what does it practically mean to step out? How do you guys step out for some undisturbed time with God?
For me, sometimes it looks like going to my room in the basement where I know Rafa is like upstairs distracted by something, and I'll just go to my room. Like if I need, a moment away from anything that I know is going to call my attention.
Okay.
So it's like I'll go to my room and, do what I got to do to have my little moment.
Okay. So one thing is stepping away from anything that is causing noise. What about the noise in your head?
That's a little hard.
How do you step out of noise in your head? Say it again?
I just do it. I don't know.
Uh-huh. You see, we have that ability more than you girls.
Yeah, I know.
That's like,
Compartmentalize.
uh-huh. That's like sometimes just kind of, you just sit on the porch and just look at the clouds.
I'm like sitting on the porch looking at the clouds. Oh yeah, I remember. That's what
But here's the fact. The fact. Is inside of you. Thoughts come, but you have to remember, thoughts will always be coming. Nothing will stop the flow of thoughts. You can just choose not to focus on them, not to cling to them. Like the thoughts come, oh, I need to do the laundry. Just do it fast. I'll do it later. I don't have to think about it right now. Oh my goodness, I didn't finish that report. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I don't have to think about that now. It takes a little bit of practice, but the idea over here is in order for Elijah to be able to hear the voice of God, he needed to come. To be able to be. Who are you? You're a compilation. When you think about you, okay, let's do this. What would you say is the most valuable you that you are? Yes, what? All of you are Hispanic over here, right? Yeah. How valuable is that to you, from 1 to 10? How big of a deal it is for you that you are Mexicans, all of you, right? Huh? No? The what?
Definitely important. Yeah, I mean, what's important?
From 1 to 10. 1, I couldn't care less. To 10, that is the only thing that is important. important in my life. Where are you at?
Oh no, I think like 5. Like I love that I'm Mexican, but it's not like, oh my god. Like
Okay.
if I was anything else, I'll kill it now, you know?
All right, so 5, yeah, it's a good value of national identity. You're not going into fascism, and on the other hand, yeah, you're not going into dismissal, the complete dismissal of it. Okay, so in that sense, I'm asking you, what for you personally is the most valuable identity you possess that you would rate 10, maybe even, or like really high? What is something that you really couldn't? If I'm not this, then I could just die.
Relationship with God, I do value like being the daughter of the Creator, like seeing that as my number one. I didn't used to think that before. It was like, oh, because I'm a girl, you know. Now it's more like, oh, because I'm the daughter of my Creator. Like I want to focus more on that identity. Sometimes I struggle with that. Sometimes I don't make it the number one thing. Sometimes it's other things, but I do like I find a lot of value in that. It brings me a lot of peace and comfort.
Okay, all right. So your spiritual identity
Yeah.
as a child of God. Okay, what about the rest of you? Thank you.
I value that I'm a good person. Like if I didn't think I was a good person, then like you said, I could just die.
All right.
Like if I thought I was like a horrible person,
Uh-huh.
I'm like that's yeah, I'm like then why am I here?
All right. Okay. So you guys are going to the mountains in your Tesla after the worship service, and you lose control, slid off the road, you hit Hyundai Elantra full of teenage kids going to the mountains to hike, you kill them all. Are you still a good person? Huh?
Yeah.
You are?
Because I didn't do it on purpose.
Well, you were playing with your phone, you guys were talking, whatever. You were not cautious. Huh? No, I'm just asking. Are you still a good person?
I would say overall, yeah.
Is that what the families of those killed teens would say as well?
They wouldn't say that because they'd say that I was distracted.
You have an attorney at law over here, kind of pleading your case, but you wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweat, seeing the faces of them in blood in that car, and you would still say, I'm a good person?
I think because he is a good person, it would like hurt him. You know what I mean? Like he would care. It's like, yeah, like I know he knows that he didn't do it on purpose, but I feel like Victor would be like, you know, he would feel for their families.
And the families tell you you're a monster. The point is crisis. The point is crisis of identity. The point is every single identity we have can be challenged. Even the spiritual aspect that you're talking about, the child of God, can be challenged. Yeah, because and the reason where I want to get you to think of is this: the child of God, that is not you. That might be an aspect of your resistance. Being a good man, that is not you. Might be an aspect of the way you live your life. You are something else.
What is it? Yeah.
Because like things in life, especially the things that are tied to external things that we identify ourselves with, can be very easily annihilated. We had, so about 10 years ago, Gordon and I were talking, Gordon started writing a book. Actually it's more than 10 years ago. And title of his book was Life on Mars, Death of Christianity. And he started arguing, like based on pretty much everything that NASA was publishing and all of the research that was done and everything else, that the concept, a philosophical concept of the life on Mars is going to effectively, literally annihilate religious milieu in the whole world. You're good, you're good. They're way too cute not to be noticed. And when we talked about it, I realized, like, okay, I'm a pastor. I devoted my whole life to this, but if this really happens, I'm going to go through a huge existential crisis. Everything I lived for and worked for is just going to collapse, just going to shatter, just going to spill out, you know?
I missed it because people go to Mars. I missed it.
So if there was ever, when, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be rather when than if, when they come to confirm that there is life on Mars, there's going to be enormous existential crisis throughout the whole religious world, no matter the religion, you know, because foundation of almost every single religion on this planet is just going to be pulled out with that. And that is one of the reasons why possibly they didn't world, you know. But
Water, right?
they found water. That was like the recent study where they actually found valleys and,
Anything moving around there?
huh?
Yeah, but that's what he's trying to say, is that they probably have, but
Yeah,
they're
I
just
was
not
gonna
sharing
say.
because it's gonna
Because
pull the rug
it's
from
going to
under so
shatter
many.
the religious and at the same time social structure, which means economic structure is going to collapse, which means the discovery of life on Mars can effectively stop the world from spinning. You know? But my point is this. Whoever you are, every single identity you have can be not just challenged, but it can be shattered and eliminated with sometimes very little push, with very little effort. So what I'm trying to say is that none of these things that you say you are, that is not you. It might be a reflection of exactly, yes, but none of that is you. You are something else. And you meet yourself in this moment of a low whisper. Here, I'll give you an example. Do you remember your, let's say, quinceañera, do you remember your 15th birthday? Huh? You don't? You didn't have quinceañera? What kind of Mexican are you? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. But try to remember like a significant birthday from your high school period. Was that you? Do you remember you in that moment? There is absolutely not one cell in your body that you have right now that is still you, right? So I'm saying your identity is the same. When you think of yourself, you remember yourself from that time, and now fast forward 10 years later to today, to right now, you're the same you when you think of yourself, when you think of your presence in that moment. But biologically speaking, intellectually speaking, mentally speaking, emotionally speaking, you have absolutely nothing in common anymore with that person from then, right? You're a completely different person than who you used to be when you were 15. But it's still you. There is this aspect of you. You understand what I'm talking about? So, this aspect of you is what is revealed in the contact with the low whisper. The moment you close your eyes and you clear your thoughts, and you just sit there aware of the chair you're sitting on, aware of the taste of coffee in your mouth, aware of an itch on your neck, aware of the humming of this air conditioner, that is you. That is who you are right now in this very moment. And the moment has passed. Now you are you. The idea is that in order for you to really meet God on a level that can never be taken away from you, you have to strip all other identities that you have and just be present with awareness of your existence. That's why I said, you're the same you from 10 years ago, from 15 years ago, from yesterday, but everything external is different. You changed your clothes, and it's not you the same as you used to be yesterday. You know, it's already different. But it's still, when you think of yourself, yeah, this is me. Let me see. I'm getting to the point where I need glasses. I have to zoom in. And this is why this is important. Let's go to the next slide. So, in order for you to learn and understand in depth how to not just engage with God, but with yourself on a level, on that most basic level of who you are, you need to be silent. Job over here says, he says, teach me and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. Now, Job had a problem. You guys familiar with the story of Job? Rich guy, huge family, living a beautiful life, and then God and the devil make a bet on him. The devil says, let me destroy everything he has. He's going to spit in your eyes. And God is like, he is my servant. He's not going to do that. So devil does that. He destroys all of his possessions. He kills all of his family except his nagging wife. He inflicts disease on him, where he is completely and utterly destroyed, devoid from everything that was ever defining him as a person. Job literally loses everything. He has nothing left. Nothing to define him and say, okay, this is who I am. And he's confused because he's like, why is God doing this to me? Why am I suffering all of these things? How did I deserve this? What did I do wrong? And if you, this is chapter 6. So if you, we don't have time to go through it, but if you start reading Job from beginning, first 2 chapters describe what happens to him. And then for 2 chapters, Job rambles on and on and on. How could this happen to me? I was righteous before God. I didn't deserve this. Why is this? I want to plead my case before God. He gets to the point where he's like, okay, I am going to file a lawsuit against you, God. You know what? For whatever is happening. But he's constantly going back to the thought like, okay, I guess you know what you're doing, but I really need to see it, you know? And then he comes to a final realization. He says, teach me, and I will be silent. So what God does next, God brings his 3 friends to talk instead of him. And then in the end of the book, God starts talking. But the idea over here that Job comes to is, you can't hear God when your mouth is rambling. You can't hear, and I'm not talking just about your mouth, I'm talking about your thoughts. You can't really hear God when you're constantly clinging to the flow of thoughts that is going through your head. Make me understand how I have gone astray. He is aware that something is not working, something is not right. But he is also aware that he is not going to be able to learn what is wrong or what needs to be corrected until the moment he is silent. The silence of your mind is key number 1 into you being able to learn more clearly what you read from the Bible. Because here's the thing. We are always told that when you speak to God, you pray, right? When God speaks back to you, he speaks to you through the Bible. But here's the problem. Even when you read the Bible, there is a thought flow going through your head. You read the Spanish translation, it's not going to be the same as when you read the English translation. And then so many times, especially when Chris is over here, so many times when we open like the Greek or Hebrew, we come to realize how much is lost even in the best English translation that we've got. So essentially, Bible is a major tool in God talking to us. But silence is the place where you actually hear. Silence is the place where you actually listen. Because you can't listen until there is something happening in there. How does your head look? Actually, I'm sure all of you do it all the time. Before bedtime, you watch a movie or watch some series or something like that. Like, okay, it's time to go to sleep. Let's turn everything off. Let's go to sleep. Have you done that recently? What happens to you when you close your eyes?
Some days I can fall asleep easy, and other days, like last night, it was just thought. Oh, shut up. I want to go to sleep, and then turn and thought.
It's like an avalanche. It starts with this. It starts with something. Oh, I gotta do this tomorrow, and then it's like drags everything else. So I gotta do this. Oh my goodness! Oh, I didn't check on this. Wow, do you remember a quote from that movie? And then like a whole bunch of things just start like that, like an explosion, like fireworks constantly happening. Why? Why does this happen? We need a quiet mind for us to be able to rest. And that's why every single expert is going to tell you, if you want to fall asleep at 10 p.m., you have to cut off all of the sharp lights at least 3 hours later, 3 hours before. So like 7 p.m., no more phone, no more TV. At best, look at the moonlight. That's kind of the most that you should do if you really want to start resting at the moment when you fall asleep. If you watch Netflix until 9:55, brush your teeth, and then 10 a.m. you're in bed, your brain actually is not going to start resting until 1 a.m. That's why we have those loud dreams, as they call them, like early when we fall asleep, and that's why very often in the morning we feel not really rested because your brain, instead of resting 8 hours, had only 5 hours to get some rest. Now, in a spiritual sense, it's the same thing. You know, when you're present, like you're right here, but your thoughts are who knows where. How do you take control of that? How do you control that?
Just like get practice.
Okay, no, I agree, but what kind of practice? Tell me about the practice that you do. Like, for example, you're morning or afternoon.
Not saying anything.
For example, you are at the work site, and do you run machinery ever?
Sometimes.
Sometimes you have to run the forklift. But your mind is on wedding planning, like this. This evening we gotta talk about the decorations for the dinner. How do you stay focused? What do you do to stay focused?
I practice, I guess, presence. So like, hey, gotta come back.
It's
You
probably
can
also,
hurt somebody. Or,
yeah.
Right?
So there's a thought. There is like a restricted thought, or like a dangerous thought. Oh, something bad could happen if I'm not right here, right now, and that's enough for you to kind of to like, okay, I'm right here. I'm driving this thing, you know. How do you apply that when you are about to pray and your thoughts wander away? There is nothing dangerous. There is no threat that you can kind of tell to yourself to get back your thoughts to to kind of be present to your prayer.
You have to like actively make the effort to like, okay, like let's try to listen for a minute. Let's be calm. Let's like, but you have to focus.
Yeah.
You gotta just tell yourself.
Job is pretty clear over here. He's like, you teach me.
And I will be silent. Silence of your mind, yeah, I'll shut up. Silence of your mind is an act of deliberate action.
Yeah, will and active will.
Yes, it's not going to happen naturally. It's not going to be like, the only time it happens naturally when you're like completely tired, when you're dead, you're ready just to kind of pass out, but that's a useless time, you know, because you can't really listen at that time. You just want to kind of pass out. The prayer of presence requires you to be actively present and aware of you that we talked about, of you stripped from everything else. Then you can hear the quiet whisper. Now next week, since we started late, we got to finish at this point. Next week we're going to talk about what does the quiet whisper actually sound like, and how do you really identify a quiet whisper in contrary to your rambling thoughts or to any other voice that you could hear in your head. And also we're going to be talking about how to interpret the quiet whisper of God and apply it into a real life that we live in. Because I really like my personal experience ever since I started doing this. Yeah, God talks to me volumes from the Bible. But one thing that happened to me is when I started practicing more this concept of being silent, when I actually started practicing it on a regular basis, what you just said, like when we talked before, it's like I read the Bible and like I've never seen this before. And I read the story for the 120th time. And this is exactly what I need to understand. And this starts happening not at some special moments when I need it, but it starts happening every single day. Every single day God gives me clarity once I learned to hear the quiet whisper and to interpret it and then use it in my real life. So that's what we'll be working on next week. In the meantime, this week, this is the challenge. Set a timer. We talked about that last week as well. But set a timer on a regular basis every single day. And take 5 minutes to zone out. Not lost in thoughts, but liberated from thoughts. Just find yourself some peaceful place where you can do that. And then when thoughts come, don't try to shake them off. Let them pass, because they will. Don't chase them, don't follow them, don't cling to them. Just let them pass. Sometimes it's easier to do with your eyes open. Just kind of focus on your surroundings. Sometimes it's easier with your eyes closed if your surroundings is too busy. But I really challenge you, try to find at least 3 times a day, 5 minutes. And it's not going to work every time. Sometimes after 2 minutes, like okay, I'll try again in an hour or whatever. You know, because the mind is just way too loud. But practice. Just start practicing this concept of being silent and see how it affects your mind and how it affects your ability to hear God a little bit better. Okay? Yes?
I wanted to add something I keep thinking throughout this whole time that we've been talking is that like when we do this, when we take the time to like be silent or listen, like actively listen, we create intimacy. And I think that that's what God wants, right? With all of this is like that intimate connection with us. Because like when you were talking about like how he wasn't in the wind, he wasn't in the earthquake, he wasn't in the fire, he was in that small gentle whisper. I feel like if I was in a relationship with someone and they had all these flashy things that they were showing me, that'd be great, that's awesome, right? But it's in those intimate, quiet moments where that person shows you, hey, I'm here, I'm being present with you, and I'm listening to, you know, whatever it is that you're talking about, whatever, that's where you feel the most connected to that person because they're showing you that they care, right? So it's like, or like even sometimes with my son, sometimes he's like, Mom, watch me, or this or that. Or like last night he was painting and I just kind of sat there for a second. I was watching him and I think like it felt like we were connecting intimately because he noticed that I cared enough to just observe, to just be present with him. And I wasn't being loud, he wasn't doing anything crazy, he's just painting. And it's like we're connecting. So I feel like when we take the time to say, like how you're saying, the 5 minutes with God, to just be quiet, even though it's not like, oh, I'm hearing all these things that he's saying, we're showing him, hey, I want to have an intimate connection with you. I'm here. Even if I don't get exactly what I'm looking for, I don't know what's happening, I'm taking that time to be with you.
Yeah, I keep telling that, I keep taking a similar example as well to explain exactly the concept of intimacy. It's like Jasmine and I, so it's gonna, my goodness, it's gonna be like 25 years almost. But it's like sometimes we have so many things to say. Like especially like if she leaves for a few days to Florida or whatever, and then she's back, and we have so many things on our minds to say, like blah, 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 blah. We just sit and talk. And sometimes we just sit there, you know? Either doing something or just sit there. Like so many times, that's so nice. Like we would like go for a ride, and then just sit there, you know, park somewhere in the nature and just be there together. And there is no need for words. There is like, so there is that concept of uncomfortable silence and comfortable silence. And as long as you feel uncomfortable silence while being in somebody's presence, that means that you guys are not really that close, you know? But the moment the comfortability develops in silence is where you know that you are really close to that person, you know? Same applies to God. You know, same applies to like sitting after your prayer and just kind of being there in God's presence. It feels silly, and that tells you that you're really not that close to Him. But when it feels really calming and pleasant, and it's perfectly fine to be silent, that tells you that you're becoming more intimate. Yeah.
And it takes effort. It's just like if I was with a friend and I'm talking, like with some of my friends, sometimes they like talk, but they talk a lot. But I'm like, you know what? I know that if I'm just listening and I'm actively listening, not like distracted in my own things, because then sometimes I'll talk back, you know, so they know that I'm actively listening. I know that they feel loved, they feel cared for, they feel like, oh, this is someone I can come to and does listen to me. And so just being present with that person and they know that you're listening can do a lot for someone. So it's like, I feel like with God it's the same thing. Sometimes there's so much He does want to tell us, but we're not there actively listening. We're distracted by everything.
Yeah.
So we do have to make an effort.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Sometimes it ain't easy.
No, it's never easy, really. I mean, after a while it gets easier,
Yeah.
but it's never easy because we're constantly on some schedule that we made up for ourselves. You know, and we just go. I say amen. Okay, I don't have time to sit now. I'll give it a minute instead of 5 or whatever. I'm really committed to having 15 minutes 3 times a day, and maybe 2 in 5. 2 days in a week, I actually managed to do that. Completely, fully kind of committed and undistracted. And that's my problem. That's nothing, it's just, you know, I allow myself to kind of slack with that. But I know when I was in Serbia, I had things to do, but it was just easier because I only had one thing to take care of. So I was able to take that time. I can tell you, like, it was amazing how mystically close to God you are. How it's hard to describe the peace and silence and quietness of my heart and my mind after like 3-4 days of actually on a regular basis spending this time in silence with Him. It's beautiful.
We understand like the value of it until we actually experience it, right? It's like you never know what you're missing until you experience it, and then you have it
That'd be cool. Anyways, that's for today. So next week we are going to more kind of quantify on what does it mean to hear the quiet whisper, to interpret it, and to apply it. All right, let's have a prayer, and let's volunteer somebody.
Abba, thank you for today, for learning about making effort to spend time with you in your presence and creating intimacy with you. We know that we need you, and sometimes it could be hard for us because we get distracted by so many things around us. But I guess that's kind of what the devil wants to do, right? Distract us from having that connection with you. So I pray that this week we can take some time to just slow down a little bit, connect with you, feel your presence, and know that you want to walk with us, you want to walk before us, you want to show us so many things, but sometimes we just don't make the time. So help us make the time this week. Remind us to take that time and get to experience what it is to walk with you, so that we can see the difference of what it is to walk with you on the daily and what it is to not have you. Because then I feel like after that we're gonna be addicted to walking with you. Thank you for all your love and your mercies, your grace. In your name we pray, amen.
You're teaching me with my imperfections, reaching me when I run the other direction. I'm undone, unraveling my plans. Make me whole again, rebuild me from the inside out, in a way only you know how. You're teaching me with my imperfections, reaching me